demand. So now I'm talking to the CFI. Let's don't talk about AI for now. Let's step back and say, what is your pain points?
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to another episode of Buildings 2.0, a podcast highlighting the voices shaping our built environment. Today, my guest is Dr. Jeff Chen. He's the Director of Digital Transformation at Symetri. He spent his career on some least glamorous, but perhaps most important part of the building, which is kind of the data management flow. He's been involved with asset management for companies like Port Authority, Columbia, Penn Medicine. And he's argued that while everyone's rushed to AI, we're kind of missing the point. So I'm excited to kind of pull some of the threads here today. Jeff, thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So a few things. One, you opened up your recent piece that you put out on LinkedIn talking about a CFO asking a firm, okay, so we're using AI, but what have we gotten out of it? And the room goes silent. Take me into that room. What's going on?
So that's a very interesting question because quickly introduce myself. So I do BIM management, I do BIM program management, I have a team doing the digital transformation, a lot of data integration, database migration, platform development, and also AI, state of the art introduced to our client, to ourselves, implementation, deployment. So when the keyword AI hit the market, a lot of our clients, they decided to use AI because their competitors are doing so. So they put a lot of AI things here and there. They subscribe to a lot of AI platforms, and they claim that they can solve their problems. But so eventually they call me and said, hey, so now I have this, I have that, but I don't see the true value, right? So I paid $2,000 on all of my subscriptions for this group, but I don't see what is the fundamental differences between, before and after. And so it's kind of remind me what we used to do, like we do all kind of fancy technology to wash the, the, the market, but the real need is supposed to be coming from the solid demand. So now I'm talking to the CFI said, so let's don't talk about AI for now. Let's step back and say, what is your pain points, right? So you think you need AI maybe to do some like generative design, but is that the real pain points? Have you did anything for your entire company about your operation guys, your IT guys, your PMs, your engineers, including your leaderships? So like, what are the most prioritized the pain point you need to solve that will give you the most the ROI? Then only if you can answer that, now we're talking about, hey, we have some AI solutions to optimize your workflow, then can solve 1, 2, 3 pain points. Before that, you cannot, reverse the process that because there's an AI technology here, then I'm going to give it to my company, and maybe you don't need it. So that's why it drive me to, to write that article. And in our AECO, architecture, engineering, construction, operation, and maintenance work, people are, we're generating tons of data. Here, data means the structured, the semi-structured, or even the unstructured pictures, drawings, photos every day. So it's really easy to be distracted and being, swat into the data swamp and thinking there might be some like a omnifunctional AI can help me out of this one, but usually it is not that case.
Yeah. I want to zoom out for a moment. Buildings, and specifically you're on the front lines of working with owner operators. When we talk about BIM, it's often in the context of design, construction. We're often talking about Revit, plugins, and a bunch of like acronyms. For a real estate team that is owning and operating spaces, what are the kinds of things that they're trying to accomplish with BIM that perhaps is grander or broader in scope than just design, building, and Revit?
So from a owner's perspective or from operation maintenance perspective, that's where I majorly put my efforts on now because they are, if you consider the entire life cycle of a building project from, planning, designing, probably 2 years and construction, probably, big project, 5 years, commissioning, we're talking about 7 years in total. Then it's, 50 years, 70 years long operation and maintenance. So that is where the, your capital, your cost, your money, your cash flow goes in. So the data requirements from the operation and the maintenance supposed to reflect in at least the contract or the data requirements of the design and construction. So I give you a interesting example. We were working with an airport. It's a very big international airport. It's by the end of the construction, they already have their as-built model. They use the IBM Maximo as their EMPs. It's the EAM CMMS. system to do all the work order, service requests, and inventory, those kind of things. So in the middle of by the end of the delivery stage and at the initiation of the operational stage, they find me. So Symetri said, "Hey, I need you guys to help me to do the BIM to FM transition. Here is your last good model, LOD 500, everything super good. I'll talk about later. Then do you guys have some way to ship all the data, asset data to your IBM side, so we don't need to do the manual Excel based data loading process?" And I said, okay. Then I opened down the model, the big model, couple gigabytes for one terminal. Everything has been overbuilt for like LD 500, probably LD 550. I can see, I swear, I can see the buttons on each air conditioner, to that the level. Every handler, everything. But if I click on those like main goods, the air handler, I don't see anything like when is the manufacturer, who's the manufacturer, who's the vendor, where's the warranty information, what is the serial number, what is the model number. Those things you're supposed to take a picture from the nameplate of that thing. Is when you do purchase it, now you know the purchase date. Install it, the installation date, right? And then take a picture of that, and all those like specifications supposed to be there. And that is the most logic and a convenient way to do that. So it end up with the owner has to issue a data recollection after the terminal has been occupied and cost $60 or $70 per asset. Thinking about for mezzanine floor, thousands of assets, you do the calculation. It's $500,000, even more than that. So we have a saying in our company. We said that the BIM model itself is like the skeleton. We have fancy skeleton, have fancy face, skin, but the data is the soul out of it. If you don't have the asset, the asset management data requirements during your construction, where most likely all the information can be collected and populated, you're going to face a lot of consequences, bad consequences in the near future. And that is not the only case I'm talking about that. So when you ask from the owner's perspective, what is the most things I want to get out of BIM model? Is the data. Then, yeah, right. So I do want to know where the geometry is. But for air handling units, at most I want to know is a box. Is a box over there? That is fine. I don't need to know, if there's some like a special geometry shape out of it. I don't care.
So then in that context, are we overblowing it? Like you mentioned, like LOD 500, 550, 5,000, whatever it might be. Is there a sweet spot where most owners can get the most out of it within a sweet spot that doesn't require us understanding like quite literally down to the button on a particular?
So true. So when we are, we use this LOD for 4 years. LOD from 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. And we also use like the BIM 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D. But I don't think any of these things are designed with a mind that tailored to operation and maintenance, to be honest, because I used to be a structure engineer. I used to on the design side. I used to be on the construction side, and now I'm on the other side of the world. So I know how cruel it is on, But if you want to make it say that, so first the LOD is supposed to be to be split into the model detail and the information detail. Is the IOD? I think is the level of development, and ROI is the level of information. Yes, yeah. So also the perfect combination probably no more than LOD 300, because if you have those models showed up, you don't want the operation guys to open the Revit to check where is the thing, right? So most likely you're going to use the Autodesk solution like a Forge or what do you call that? APS, right? APS. Yeah. And if you have a very chunky, very big model, it's very slow. So have a very lean model. I don't want to have any, handler or those things over there. I just want to have a very simple model, but the data, the ROI need to be very, you should have a compliance or data QA/QC there. So for example, for Port Authority, for all of those large organizations, they do have a very well defined data dictionary to tell the general contractor that for air conditioner, I need this. And the most important thing that almost everybody, every time they overlook at the very beginning is, in this model, let me ask you, for a normal building size, the building probably 5 floors, how many 3D objects might be in the model? Thousands of millions of, you can name it, right? But how many assets are there? Not too many. So like how you defined what is an asset out of those like millions of 3D objects.
Objects.
Are you going to define a partition door as an asset? No, because asset is something you put your efforts, you track it, you do your PM on it. If that's a door, I think you basically let it die and you replace it. And that is not an asset. That is at most a component or a spare parts. So how are you going to distinguish the asset out of your 3D objects?
Right.
That's the
Right.
step one.
Right.
Then you basically narrow down your data scope from a huge 1 million 3D objects to like a probably 2,000-ish. That's the fundamental things. I'm not
Right.
even talking about the AI things, but that is the fundamental data flow I'm talking about. Try to, increase the data operability from design construction, then flow all the way into the operation and maintenance, and try to make the data lean. We don't
Right.
want to bring everything, but only the things we care.
What language connects this? I guess maybe to expand on this, whether you're the port authority trying to track a certain set of assets, or you're, say, like a food and beverage or like a retail company, right? You have different kinds of assets. What standard have you seen works and helps filter through some of this noise to kind of get to that like
Good question. Good question. So sometimes they use some like existing coding or standard system there, like the uniformat, the Omniclass. But most of my clients, for example, Port Authority, they're very diverse. They're huge. They have like all the airports, all the tunnels, all the waterfronts, and also all the bridges, piers. It's, the Uniclass or the uniformat Omniclass, they're basically designed for buildings. They don't have anything for bridges, right? So because of that, they need to absorb a lot of asset hierarchies from the bridge design or maintenance standard, like ASHTO standard, right? Then from the ASHTO, they start to divide the bridge into, the substructure, the superstructure, then you have the deck, you have the girder, you have the bearing, in that way, they have hierarchies, and every bearing can be considered as an asset. Then you start your data requirements for that. So they need to develop their own data dictionary. A data dictionary will be at least have a data hierarchy talking about bearings, girders over there. Then also you need to have the attributes to describe every asset. For a bridge, I need this or that. For a girder, I need this or that. And then for a bearing, I need different things. And from there, the guys during design or construction, they know, I need to give my, downstream guy this, and that information.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I I have a thesis, and I want to tell you. I want you to tell me if you think I'm off here. You and I, along with probably most of our audience here, has been hearing about the promise of digital twins since as long as we can remember. Certainly since my days in architecture school and beyond. And when I look at the industry and I take a look at the kind of the different pillars that need to be true in order for us to just create one digital twin, let alone this promise of every building having its own digital twin, I see a few pillars. I think one important pillar I think is the capture component. Like literally, how do we capture accurate information about an existing building,
Yes.
right? I think
Yes.
LiDAR and the 3D scanning reality
Yeah.
capture is an important pillar of that. Today, we've seen LiDAR decrease in cost, 150x in the last 20 years, right? Before it was
Yeah.
100,000 plus, scanner. Today, we're
Exactly.
seeing devices that are, significantly more affordable. I think on the opposite end of this, we have proliferation of like interfaces. So like Autodesk Forma, NVIDIA, I know, is rolling out
Yeah.
their own Omniverse and a bunch of like interfaces. Of course, we have the IoT, the sensor kind of community there is kind of an important layer.
Yeah.
My thesis is the following. I think we haven't achieved like a true digital twin at the portfolio or neighborhood scale simply because it just costs too much money to convert 3D scans into standardized and usable 3D models. My thinking here is that this process right now is still super manual, super
Yeah.
expensive, and
Yeah.
super costly. So in other words, like the
Yeah.
reason why your client is probably going to be hard pressed to refresh that 3D model is because it's just so damn expensive
Yeah.
to
True.
scan it, model it, and then set it up. What am I getting wrong there? Like, and I guess my view is, bottom line is, I think the bottleneck to scaling digital twins beyond, say, like a flagship airport or a big building is actually just production. It's actually like converting scans to standardized models to then kind of serve as a layer for IoT, for interfaces, etc. How do you see it?
I say it's a very, so like, how to say that? Different client, they have different tiers of demands, right? So
Yeah.
what you are describing, I think, is like the very comprehensive digital twin style data analytics and reporting tool. So for example, like a big dashboard, not a Power BI dashboard, but a fancy dashboard with a 3D model here, IoT connected here, can do the triggers. If you have some like CO2 density goes high, something area light up, and maybe can warn somebody and do something, right? Then you have your, you mentioned the ACC, so the model coming from ACC, right? So a lot of time they like that. So they have that things on their war room. Some like manufacturing companies, they have it on their factory. Big screen, 8 inches, and has the model, has all their KPIs over there. And that's a type of digital twin. But on the other side, there might be other needs. So for example, I have my ERP system. I have my IBM Maximo or Info or Hexagon, the asset management the platform. I even have my, the client, they have their own home baked database. I have my things here for, I don't know, for my project cost things there. I can even have my SharePoint here, e-builders, live links, right? So you give a very good point that it takes a lot of time to standardize everything into one standardized format. So you're basically thinking that if we're going to build a center data warehouse in the middle, that would be too much expensive because those are different data silos, and what will be the most effective way to connect them together? So we are not only carrying information from my BIM model, but can also streaming across references, all the other things. So that is like the ultimate, in my opinion, sir, the ultimate phase or the ultimate picture of a digital twin. Are you a old science fiction movie fan? There's a movie called Space Odyssey 2001.
Sure.
So in that movie, there is an AI called HAL 9000, right? So the astronaut in the spaceship, they asked how it's a big lonely eyes over there. So basically, like what's going on with my spaceship and how it goes into all the different data silos. I think it is like that behind of the curtain. If that is a true story, go behind of the all the maintenance system, all the here and that there's hey, I find some filters misfunction outside of space, so you need to give a tour outside space. Then what the user or the astronaut asks is only questions. He doesn't need to know where the answer will be queried from. Might be from their CLMS, might be from their game model, but the user doesn't need to care. From an owner perspective, the user of that might be the director of the facility. He doesn't know how to use BIM model. He doesn't know how to use Revit, right? He doesn't even need to have the knowledge to connect into a SQL database and do the query himself. All he needs to do is today I'm doing my job. I'm asking questions. The question can be practical, like show me all the pending work orders. This floor I need to work on, right? Then AI will go. Now we have the agentic AI. It's more than capable to do that. I can tell you the story for the last 5 years. But the AI will send a lot of AI agent to call different MCP tools, goes into different channels, different APIs, and find out what you want to have the any workout information goes into the Maximal called API, grab a lot of Maximal things and then project those things on your BIM model, highlight those things. Hey, I found 3 things on this floor you need to work on today. Then the user might be like, I want to know which one is the most important things I need to work on first. If I'm, a little bit short-handed, then I'm not talking about all the imagination thing. I'm talking about the project we already done. So like the AI will go into the BIM model or some other database and checking some parameters, maybe the criticality of that 3D object or maybe something else. Anyway, if you tell you in a very reasonable explanation that hey, among the 3 things, the first one has the criticality 5 out of 5. So I think you need to work on that. The user, a very, very dummy-proof, intuitive way to speak to the AI, but the AI will behind the curtain do all the things by itself, including you can consider the ACC model, the BIM model as a database because it's a big, deep, nested JSON things, but ACC give you a lot of API to query. So it's the database over there, and you have like a 10 database around you, and in the middle is the agentic AI. That's the digital thing I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. So much to get on there. And I still, one of the things that keeps me up at night is that like what needs to be true in us for order in us to scale digital twins beyond say a few very projects. And I keep coming down to the cost of capturing and converting it to structured data, right? That JSON that's within the model is still far too expensive and far too manual, as you know, to achieve these kinds of levels of detail and accuracy that are appropriate. I think the irony is that we would spend, say, an hour, a year or so creating scanning an airport, 3D modeling it, and
Yeah.
then 2, 3, 4 years go by, and that equipment's moved. Maybe someone rerouted MEP duct and whatnot. And so
Yes.
naturally, if I'm a facilities manager who doesn't care to open up a Revit model, but which I'm not
Yes.
going to do, and I see any model, and then I instantly see it's out of date anyway, I'm instantly reverting back to what I know, which is PDFs and
Yes.
whatnot.
Agree.
What have been the best, like maybe a use case where you've seen the promised land, or say the promise of digital twin work in its kind of most successful form? I assume it's getting the right people on board, but is there an example that stands out to you?
Yes. You're giving a very, very said but true point there. Said that even the as-built model, if you use that things for your long-term operation and maintenance, the things change inside of the building. How you're gonna capture those things again and again and again, update.
Right.
Then probably the owner need to also have a contract with the BIM specialist team, only doing that things quarterly or. But this is some of my client they are doing. So they collect all the changes within a building. Every quarter they do a major update for their BIM model. It is costly, and what if you want the true answer? So I probably go into another direction. When we talk about BIM, so BIM is for the building information modeling. I give lectures to university students and college students. The first question about the BIM is I'm asking them the building information modeling. The building, is that a noun or is that a verb? Right. So most of them think that is the noun, it's the building itself. And I will ask, so like now, if I have a bridge, then you call that the bridge information modeling. Then you have a tunnel, you call that tunnel information modeling. It's actually true because I went to some ASCE meetings. They do have a BRIN with a small r, BRIN. They call the brain. Think that is a bridge information modeling. I don't think that is correct because the building is a verb. It's the buildings like the you like you play Lego. You just bring all the pieces together and you build that things into a information model. So it's a building verb information model. So when we're talking about this cost and things, my question to you is, do we have to have a BIM model there, right? So, or digital twin has to have a BIM model for the geometry references, or maybe not even need to have a BIM model. If we need to spend too much effort at this moment,
Hmm.
what stop us to connect the BIM model and swap that into a database? If we only during the asset management, we only care about the asset, then that would
Right.
be the asset information. You don't need to have a BIM model to show the operators where the pump is. You need to have a very clear location hierarchy information said this is on which floor, all of things go there. You have your name tag
Right.
already in the room. You have your QR code there. So have a big
Right.
model is a very fancy tool. It is not necessary, especially for most of our clients. They are not building up things from scratch.
Right.
They want us to do the asset management for their existing projects,
Right.
their property, probably for 40 years, like a terminal, a bus terminals. It's really hard to find a place when the building is actually vacant and you go there and you use your data. It's almost impossible. So why start from there? I think a misunderstanding is like some of my clients, they always think that when we're talking about digital twin, the starting point or the prerequisite is you have to have a nice BIM model. Maybe it's not, right? We can start with a good database. You already know I have 2,000 assets over there. Do an on-site commissioning. Take notes. Then we build up that dashboard. Then we start your digital twin. We connect that with your other data silos. When you are ready for the BIM model, you have the upfront the investment coming will be available to you. Now we talk about that. We have our way to merge those databases back to your BIM model. So that's
Right.
how we solve it, but not directly solve it from scratch, but that's our detour to go around it.
Yeah, I'm thinking out loud here, but I guess that you're right in that. I guess it depends on the prompt. So I the way that I think about these organizations, if I'm an owner operator, when you double click into what the hell that does that mean, you're often looking at different teams, right? Between facilities management, you got the finance team, you got design and construction,
Yes.
and it seems like each one, depending on who you ask on what side of the table, is asking questions of a thing, but in slightly different formats. So I'd argue if it's the architect or engineer, they're likely needing it in some sort of geometric form, CAD, BIM, et cetera. But to your point, if it's facilities management, that their day to day is often spent in kind of itemized views, right, lists and like that, then you're. I guess I'm what I get excited about is like what kinds of solutions start to address kind of the different folks and different sides of the table that
Yeah.
kind of meets them where they are,
AI, right? So like it's only AI can catch up with your question from the different user groups. So I also have a good example because the public agency, they have a lot of interesting scenarios. So we are helping them to do the inspection and also the asset management and into some portions of renovation for a big bridge, very, very long bridge across from one state to another.
Yeah.
So they were saying that they're building the Power BI dashboard. Power BI dashboard is good, but it's kind of rigid. You build it, it's always there, and it only shows the things you want it to show, right? Uh, So on their CEO meetings, the CEO sometimes they ask questions. It's like, hey, how many and how much money we spent on the main span of the bridge for the last 5 years. That's something that the usual the director of the facility, they don't care because all they care is I have 10 work orders there. I have 10 inspection there. Are they finished? What's their status? For the daily operators, it's like this is my to-do list. I need to do this, that's my job plan, that's my PM. I need to check them out. Then all right, but when a CEO asks me, how much money we spent on the main span, it's a very reasonable question from a CEO's leadership level, executive level, but no one prepared that Power BI for them. Then the TI was a little bit disappointed, and the director is under very high pressure. And so we talked, and he is like, no matter how good the Power BI is, we cannot predict the question from the CEO. Next
Right.
time he might ask another question. I cannot continue to build up the Power BI one after another just to get us this questions.
Right.
Then the only obvious intuitive solution is you have AI, right? So when they're asking, you can even give the chatbot to CEO, typing how much money I spent on that. Then the AI agent behind the curtain, as I mentioned, in the middle of all the data silos, we will be able to say, we want to how much money. I will go to first find all the contract number has been projected on the mainframe for the last 5 years, and I grab a lot of a contract the number and I'm going to to find all the what you call cost contract. Then I aggregate them together. I give it to you. All of that query data ad hoc analysis happening about 20 seconds, and you spend $2 million. That's how you do this to different level of questions from different user groups. Yeah. So yeah.
I think it's coming. I think what you're highlighting there is an important point because depending on who we are and kind of what sides of the table we are, we're often asking questions beyond the scope of just like geometry. Of course, that's an important part. But whether we're looking at cost data, market data, geographic data, it's almost like you need these kind of like connectors. I guess this is some framing that companies like OpenAI or Anthropic have
Yeah.
gotten
Yeah.
really good at, just thinking about these things as connectors, and we got to start better connecting. I think that's kind of one component I see. The other is like well, how do we verify this stuff is accurate? And I think this is kind of
Good
the
question. Good
data in,
question.
data
Good
out.
question. And I got all the good questions today. I'm really happy about that.
That-
So
if you can't
yeah.
tell, this is keeping me up at night, but I'm curious if you've seen kind of a better example as to
So
um,
so we use ChatGPT a lot. We know ChatGPT can BS, right? And in the term, it's called a hallucination. So the AI will hallucinate a lot, depends on how advanced the AI is. But we all know it's there. So sometimes it will lick your boots and say something, yeah, I was wrong. I agree with you. Even you're telling the AI something like super absurd. The AI is always like try to make you happy. So the way we are lower the hallucination rate is we're not when we're seeing this kind of AI development. I'm not talking about using Chat GPT or use cloud. We use the OpenAI platform or the Anthropic cloud platform. We directly use the API out of it. So when we develop the API agent, what the agent does is it will mimic the human behavior and only call the API when the API need to be called. So I give you a synergy. So I ask you to go find the all the active work orders in the Maximal. So what you usually does is you go to Maximal, You open the work order library and you do the filter set active. And you find there are probably 10 records there. You export it into an Excel sheet. You bring it to me. That's what human will do. What AI will do is, no, the AI agent will do is it will call the Maximal through the API, basically exactly the way you did on the front end, but he does it super quick from the back end. API key, no, the API is a format that you cannot just improvise. You ask this API, it have to give you the exactly right information, 10 records in a JSON file. Then you bring that things to me. So when we're talking about the how we can make things done, how we do the execution, there's no difference between if that's you do it or the AI agent will do it. So there is no hallucination there. If we let the ChatGPT to do that, the ChatGPT won't even goes into your maximum. So it will give you something, oh, I found 10, but it's actually he made all those things up, right? So that's why we don't use the chat face. We use the API behind of it, and we do the agentic AI. And that's why the AI agent is very popular now. It's the already, everywhere, very mature methodology because the hallucination rate is almost down to zero. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. In light of the advancements in tooling and services and AI agents, I think we're going to see less software. So I think the last 10, 15 years, I think we've been bombarded with a lot of prop tech, con tech, solutions. You probably have 17 different subscriptions, and we've seen there's only like after the 17th RFI software, right? Like it starts to kind of get bloated. My thinking is that I think we're going to see a lot more just services. I think we're going to see just straight up
Yes.
firms just doing the work. And so when you are a real estate team, owner operator, and your option is to just buy the tooling and kind of figure it out yourself, I think that there's going to be just a resurgence in just service providers, whether it's AEC or some other kind of generation of firms, to just straight up start doing this for a
Yeah,
firm.
I agree.
In your role, like, is that something that you're leaning into,
Yes.
like doing the work?
Yes. So I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think the subscription-based platform will still be the major case in this AI period. Because when I saw clients, they spend $1,000 on a subscribed AI platform, can do something, but they probably, maybe they use 10% of the entire functionality of the platform, but they still pay 100%. And the most important thing is, in this now, the appetite of our client has been spoiled by the AI. They know how powerful the AI can be. So their demands will be more and more picky, more and more difficult. And that require the platform to do some kind of customization only for their needs. But that won't happen because the platform won't change their method or their feature just because of you requested. So that actually cannot justify the needs for them to do the subscription, very expensive subscription at the very beginning. And it end up with that they are going to find some like a bespoke or a customized mastered solution that only works for them. And that will become the service you were talking about. I went to a pre-construction summit this year, and I was like, we have like 50 booths over there. Probably 40 of them are talking about the AI powered estimation. I don't think they know each other, but when they step into the conference room, they're going to find a lot of familiar solution over there. Because behind of all of those fancy front end, the core is no more than OpenAI solution, cloud solution, Gemini solution, all those big large language model providers. They just put their core and share on top of them. Right then, when I talk with the visitors, the people there, they were saying like, oh man, there are so many similar things here. I don't know, I need something from this company. I need something from that company, but there's no company that I can 100% fit my needs and drop into the acceptable price range that I can, I want to pay. Then from there, we start talking about, so I think what you need is a customized solution, build your solution, your IP. You pay no one after, the development, maybe maintenance, upkeep, but that's on your that's it. So I 100%,
Yeah.
triple 100% agree with you. I don't think the subscription-based platform is going to be there like dominated like it used to be. But I think the bespoke solution will be the king for the future.
Yeah. Jeff, this has been incredibly fun and a deep dive into things that, if you can't tell, something that's been keeping me up at night as well. For those that want to follow you, work with you, where do they find you? How do they reach out to you?
So my LinkedIn and also if they contact the Symetri USA, and if they mention any like AI related questions, then I will be the first person to be contacted with internally. So
Awesome. Jeff, thanks so
thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.